young girl growing up in the Netherlands in a Catholic family, I think Easter was my favorite holiday. I loved Easter. I loved everything about it, especially chocolate, which I now call one of the most important food groups. Of course, it has to be, I'm a little picky, it has to be organic and raw and all that. That's my thing at the moment. But it was something about that, at the end of winter, beginning of spring, new life. I did not really understand what Easter was about. I didn't quite know the Easter story. I didn't understand it from the Christian perspective or the Jewish perspective about Passover. But I knew something was happening. And so today I understand it in a completely different way. Today, after years of doing research and really understanding what it's about, because in our teaching we look at the metaphysical interpretation of everything. But today I know they all come together. Passover, Easter, before all those religions existed, especially Jewish and the Christian religion, it was about the Anglo-Saxon goddess Esther, or Oestre, or Ostara. She was the goddess of fertility, the goddess of the dawn, the goddess of light. Eggs were a symbol of fertility, and the hare was her totem animal. So before there was even a religion, there was something magical happening at this time of year. Interestingly enough, the Judeo-Christian world said, let's pick a date when Jesus died. And the date that they picked was the Sunday, the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. That's why it's a moving holiday. That's why occasionally it's on the same day as April Fool's Day. And I got my money. I got them this morning. I love April Fools. I grew up with April Fools. My dad had us run all around town to find beanstalk seed. Or round rulers. He got us every year. And so I told Norman I was stuck on the highway, my car stalled. And I needed him to come. And he didn't have his phone on, but when I got here, he said, are you all right? I'm coming over. I said, no, I called Honda, and they came and they started it. Well, what's wrong with the car? Well, I don't know, they told me to take it in on Monday, and I couldn't stand it anymore. So I said, April Fools. You got me. So the whole story, though, of Jesus is an incredibly powerful one. This holiday is a cosmic event. No matter what you believe, no matter what your faith is, no matter where you are in your faith, whether you don't have any, or you let it go and you've come back, or it's changed, it is a cosmic event because it tells a very natural story. I'm going to tell you something that some of you don't believe, but I'm telling you now. You're all going to die. All of you. Me too. We're all going to die. None of us get out of here alive. But life is not about death. Life is about life. I'm always so surprised when I talk to people whose death is so imminent. And they go, I can't believe I'm dying. And I'm like, I don't say that. Of course you're going to die. The whole idea is not about preventing death, but we don't deal very well with it in our culture. We don't like to talk about it. We don't like to think about it. So when somebody dies, we embalm them and we make them look alive, and we don't realize how awful they look. And then we put formaldehyde in them, and we do all this crazy stuff to make it seem like the person doesn't really die. We're going to die. We're dying every single day. Every single day, you and I are dying. I don't know if you guys ever do an exfoliant, but that will tell you that parts of your body are already dying. We get to embrace that. I can't wait. Not like I want to die tomorrow, but I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm curious. What is it going to be like? This life, I always say, is not easy. And I'm doing a lot of really hard work work on my consciousness and forgiveness work and letting go and being free so I don't have to do it over again in the next one, if there is a next one. And so the whole idea is about life, death, and resurrection, because in spiritual principle it says that your soul lives forever. Your physical body will die, but your spirit, your soul lives forever and is on an evolutionary journey. And how beautiful the story about Jesus' very short life, his death, and his resurrection. He is the master teacher. He is the way shower. He is a guide. And we're all slow learners because 2,000 plus years, we still kind of go, huh? What was that story about? The story is about a man, human, who knew his divinity. He knew he was pure spirit. He knew he was more than his human experience. He knew his innate connection with the divine. So I'm here to shock myself, because I just learned this week, and to shock you. Because he really actualized his own divinity, and he's the example for us. Most of you know that the original stories that happened that were later scribed into the Bible were spoken in Aramaic. So the Greeks took the Aramaic language, which was the original language of Jesus, and translated it, and then it got translated in a gazillion other languages, and it lost a few things in the translation over the years. Partly because some of these religions decided to kind of dilute the message with a lot of fear to control people. That's interesting in itself, because the word fear should have been translated into awe. But that's a whole other talk. Who remembers what Jesus said on the cross? Oh God, why hast thou forsaken me? That's not what he said. I know that blows you away. I know that's really shocking, and it's very provocative, but that's not what he said. He said something completely different. And it makes sense, because why would a human being who was actualized, who knew his divinity, who experienced his oneness with God, who was a way shower, who had infinite faith, doubt God at the moment of his death? It is said that in Aramaic, and I hope I don't butcher this, that he said, Eli, Eli, lamana sabachthani. That's not what he said. He said, Shabachthani. And so he said, Eli, Eli, lamana shabachthani. Shabachthani means, it is for this purpose I have come. It is not, why hast thou forsaken me? Question mark. There was no question in his mind. He had no doubt. He had faith. He planned the whole thing to be an example that death is not the end. That horrible suffering is not about horrible suffering. It's about our awakening. So that changes the whole story. Because he was talking about, this is why I've been here. This is why I came to this world, to show you that no matter how much you suffer, how much pain you have, how much you endure, what happens to you in your life, you have a purpose. And that's what you are here to live. I can hear some of you think, yeah, but I don't know my purpose yet. I don't have one. Yes, you do. You're here to be love in action until you're clear about what your real purpose is. And we all have more room for that. Wouldn't you say? Of course he said that. He knew that God would never forsake him. But do you? Is the question. Something's been happening with me in the last year, and it's about that. So when I was reading that, I had a good cry out of joy, where more and more and more I realized that I can completely trust God, whether I call it universe or spirit or a purple pickle, because it doesn't matter what you call it, that I have so much faith that the universe supports me and that everything that happens, happens for me and for my good. So there's nothing that can happen to me that can move my faith, that can make me doubt. Mostly. I'm sure there's going to be moments where I slip into doubt. But the truth is, that's true for all of us. Nothing ever happens to you that is not infused with divine love, that isn't infused with universal grace, that isn't infused with answers and solutions and clarity and wisdom and opportunities to grow and to see life from a greater perspective, which I'm going to talk about next week, if I remember. But the master teacher, this guide, this way shower, what he taught us about our purpose is that we are here to recognize our divinity. Period. We are here to develop that recognition, and we're here to live it, to actualize it. That's his message. We are here, each of us, to become more Christ-like. Towards ourselves and towards each other. And what has to die is your smallness, your fears, your doubts, your anxieties, your worries, your limitations, your thinking you're not good enough, your fear about your future, your worry about money, your judgment about other people. I can go on and on and on and on. And it's to know that even though physical human death is a given, our divine life is everlasting. And we're here to get that so that when this physical body dies, we don't have to do the same stuff over and over again. That's my belief. And yet we fear it so much, don't we? Death. And all forms of it. Loss and all forms of it. We don't do well with that. So that's where acceptance comes in. Ernest Holmes says about resurrection that it's rising from a belief in death, a restoring or a renewal. We recognize that life is an unfoldment and must necessarily culminate in a victory over death. Jesus made it plain that we should do even greater things. He taught us that the kingdom of heaven is not reached through the gateway of death, but by overcoming our limited beliefs while here, by recognizing our divinity within. So what cross are you driving around? My back, my bones, my bank account, my loneliness, my fears, my worries. That's all about avoiding that fear of death, that fear of transformation, a fear of change. Did you know that according to most studies, let me ask you, according to most studies, what do you think is the people's biggest fear? Public speaking, yes. Number 2, death. Yes. So death is number 2. Does that sound right? It means that to the average person, if you go to a funeral, you're rather in the casket than doing the eulogy. I snuck in an April Fool's joke. The cross, hence the cross. Did you know that the cross also has metaphysical meaning? This one is our descent from our humanness to spirit. Sorry, humanist to spirit. That doesn't really matter. No, I said that wrong. How could I forget that? Because I remember when I first heard that, I was blown away. Wait, this one is your human journey. It is from your human consciousness to your spiritual consciousness. Some people call our human consciousness our coma consciousness. I like that because I just recently heard that. We all know when people are in a coma and just a walking dead, right? Sometimes we're there. But our humanness is an evolutionary path. It's a one of awakening. And in this one is from the world of spirit, the descent into matter. So what the crucifix represents is the crossing out of our errors that we hold. Error consciousness, the beliefs that we hold that are not true with a capital T, our limited way of thinking, the things I mentioned before. And so we put ourselves on the cross and we forget what it represents, and if we can just remember that when stuff happens, that we're on a growing edge, that we're learning something new, that we're evolving, and it's how we then look at the experience.